Okay. Y'all ready for this? Riders on the Storm. COD TV. What up, everyone? It's me, your boy Persway. Yes, I'm wearing a mask this stream. We're being COVID safe. We've got an in-house guest today, Nick Porfard. Porfard? Porfard. I know, it's something with my mouth. I don't know what it is, man.
Honestly, I don't know who does that.
Porfard. Nick Porfard from Prisma Guitars, man. We've got him in-house. We're going to check out some of his handiworks. You know, it's such a special treat. We'd like to first and foremost shout out to Nicole at Verve Projects in Toronto for making this happen. I'd like to shout out the Studio 111 for making this happen. And a big shout out to Dalek, our special guest this evening. And before we get started, I guess it just really kind of makes sense for me to kind of read a little bit about Dalek here. I tried to memorize it, but you know, when you get to a certain age, it gets difficult. But let me talk a little bit about James and his past and his future a little bit here. So James Marshall, known as Dalek, is an American painter best known for his Space Monkey character. Upon completing art college in the 1990s, he began exhibiting his work and produced stickers and prints of the character in order to encourage further development of his art. 2001 proved to be a significant year in Dalek's career when he moved to Brooklyn, New York. The same year, he was drawn to the Boston Museum for a show displaying the works of Takashi Murakami. Realizing that he still needed some sort of articulation when it came to his own art, finding it within Murakami's, Dalek started his apprenticeship with a renowned Japanese painter, which greatly informed his own studio practice, color mixing, and other disciplines crucial to his process today. He has participated in numerous solo and group shows throughout the US, Asia, and Europe. He has painted several large-scale murals and complete a variety of commercially commissioned work for companies including Nike, Hurley, American Express, Microsoft, and Instagram. And let's not forget Prisma Guitars now, which we're stoked on. Dalek's work is critically acclaimed, and it has been featured in numerous publication articles and magazines such as the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Juxtapose, and more. Damn. Wow. And, it doesn't even stop there. You know, I mean, we're going to get into it with Dalek in this interview and just have a casual conversation. That's what we do here. We don't stress it. We just want to have fun. We want to connect with our peers and people that we respect. And so it's a special treat to have one of my art heroes on the show with me tonight. So maybe we should get this party started. Yep. Welcome to the stage, everyone. Dalek and Nick Porfard from Prisma Guitars. Come on in. It was sick. Good shit, Dalek.
Yeah, buddy. Do I gotta stay in this fucking amp?
Where do you want us to put you? Otherwise, you're gonna be in a floating square. You look so good in a bass amp, man.
I'll stay in the amp, man.
You're the bass man.
Why'd you flip the Space Monkey around backwards, man?
Yeah, well, I did that because otherwise he'd be facing the other way, and we could totally flip it. Hey, Wally.
You're fine. I'm just fucking around.
You just fucking with me? All right, cool.
Of course.
All right, well, let's keep the show going. Let's have some fun. Let me turn up my monitor because you're such a mellow-mannered man.
Yeah, buddy.
Shoot, man, let's talk about art. Let's talk about the beginning. You know, I want to kind of dive in a little bit about your past. We don't have to stay there very long. It'll be really quick.
We can do whatever you want, man.
Sweet.
I'm good.
All right, cool. I just want to ride the Space Monkey for a little longer. I'm a huge fan of yours, you know, and I have been for decades. I know you've probably seen my posts, and you know, I just, you know, when I get around you, I get all excited, but I keep my cool. But, you know,
Look, Dave, you know, I'm a huge fan of yours as well, buddy. So, you know,
thank you, man.
yeah, man.
I just want the chat to know how much I love you and I love your work. Growing up, you grew up in a military family, so you kind of found yourself all around was it all around the world or all across the nation?
Yeah, well, it was all around the world by the time I got out of high school, but for the most part, I grew up and down the East Coast, you know, Connecticut, DC, Maryland, Virginia, South Carolina. It's mostly, you know, where my dad was stationed. And then I ended up finishing high school in Japan, senior year. And then we moved to Hawaii from there. And I lived in Hawaii for a couple years.
Wow.
And then I went to school. I came back and went to school in Richmond, Virginia, and then moved to Chicago, and then moved out to California. So that's like mid 90s at that point.
Wow. I mean, at already such a young age, you've been in some pretty major cities and probably seen some really cool things. I don't know how much you got off the base as a kid, but.
Yeah, well, nonstop. I mean, I was 16 and we'd go off base all the time.
Yeah.
You know, so I spent most of my time running around Tokyo and Yokohama, and we'd go out, you know, to Enoshima and kind of down there to go surfing and all over the place, man. We were super busy.
Yeah.
Just skating and surfing and drinking and causing trouble.
I mean, discovering art or the art within you, what was that process like? When did that happen? When did you feel like, you know, like, hey, I love to draw. This is something I'm really going to put my emphasis on, or was it not?
I mean, I always drew and doodled. I don't know how old are you, Dave?
Oh, geez, man, I'm almost 50.
Yeah, so you're from the same time period. I mean, I'm 52 now.
Yeah.
Like we all know, man, there were no such thing as art careers back in the 70s and even
Right.
the 80s.
Right.
There certainly weren't any parents encouraging anybody to pursue that. But you know, man, I always doodled. And I think the big thing for me was I started doodling really young, and I would do like most people. I'd trace stuff, and then I learned how to, you know, sketch things from comic books and from, you know, like weird technical manuals. And you know, growing up in a military family, I was into drawing tanks and planes
Right.
and stuff like that really young. And then I got into drawing superheroes, and then I kind of started evolving my own style and just doodling my own characters. And you know, but it wasn't anything. It was a hobby, right?
Sure.
I mean, and I wasn't really that into art, right? Like again, it was comic books and some record art, very, you know, kind of pop commercial kind of reference points, right? I wasn't going to museums. I wasn't looking at fine art.
Right.
Had no interest in it. You know, I was into shit like Garfield, you know, and you know, drawing that kind of stuff, right?
Just all the
Snoopy
things from our era, right? Like just.
yeah, just stuff that, you know, 10 to 12-year-olds would probably draw, right?
Right.
You know, and as I got older, it changed a little bit. So, you know, I always tell people like the first thing that kind of really, when I got into punk and skating, which was probably like ninth grade, so it was probably like 1982. You know, that stuff to me was the first stuff that really spoke to me, where I was like, oh, this shit, like I like this. I definitely am into it. So the big thing there for me was Pusshead. You know, Pusshead will always forever be probably one of the hugest artistic influences in my life, even though you'd never know it, right?
You would never guess it, right? I mean, it's the same with me. Like I listen to, you know, music that no one would even expect me to listen to, or I had to keep secret because all my friends were boom bap heads, but I was listening to
Right.
The Cure and Susie and the Banshees and the Smiths and all this stuff,
Yeah, man.
and I kept it like kind of coveted in a sense.
Right, but I think that's the thing, man. Like I was the same way. I listened to everything, right?
Right.
Like I all kinds of music still do.
Yes.
Um, and it's just because I just have a general interest in new shit, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
beauty of life is like, oh, what's this? Oh shit, what's that? Oh, this
Right.
is cool.
Right.
So it's just the way I was always living. So I was always looking at new stuff, always like drawn to, but that did it for me, right? So I started buying Zorlac skateboards because that's Pushead did all the graphics
Yeah.
for them. The old,
Exciting time in
I mean,
skateboarding and music,
yeah,
the
yeah.
early
So the
80s.
old big boys graphics and the old John Gibson graphic, and then obviously, he did the album covers like Septic Death and the
Right.
FUs and
Right.
COC and all that stuff. But the best was he had he had these little ads in Maximum Rock and Roll. Like I used to get Maximum Rock and Roll every month once I found out it existed. Um, and I would try to order stuff, but I didn't have a lot of money, right?
It's always the case.
Basically,
Yeah.
basically no money because I was a kid and
Yeah.
I get like a quarter a week or some shit. Um, but he would have these things like send me $10 in an object and I'll draw on it or paint on it or whatever. And I
Right.
was always so bummed that I didn't have $10 that I could have sent him to do that. Like it's literally
$10.
still probably one of the largest regrets in my life that I didn't,
Ah.
you know.
Yeah, man. You probably, I mean,
Dude,
obviously you still have anxiety over it. I wish we had a time machine, man.
do.
Too bad that bass amp can't just travel through time.
I know.
I bet you Wally can make it happen if he wanted to. Wally,
Yeah, man. Come on, Wally.
come on, Wally. Let's go back and get that piece for our boy James, dude.
Flux capacitor.
We'll be right
I mean,
back.
I guess that's back in time. Look, my hair was shorter.
Yeah, man. You look like almost
So
a
we're
completely
working-
different person here.
Yeah, man. It's amazing what COVID will do.
You look great. You look great, by the way, man. I love the long hair. I love the growth. You're rocking,
Oh,
bro.
thank you, brother. Well, the
So,
beauty is the wife encouraged it, and I'm
Oh,
like, you know what?
good.
I've never really grown my hair long, and she was like, "Have at it." So now
she
I'm
was
going
like,
for,
baby,
Mhm.
baby,
Now I'm going for
baby.
full Willie Nelson status.
I love it, man. That's awesome.
I'm
Uh,
just gonna
um,
let it grow.
Yeah, that's great. So the discovery of graffiti evolved out of like the love of skateboarding and then traveling around. Where were you when you discovered graffiti or it discovered you?
Yeah. So the first, the first time I ever saw it, funny enough, there was a guy when I lived in Japan. There was a sailor he was from the Bronx. And we called him Sledge.
Sledge,
But
awesome.
his real name is Pete Marinage. But he was about 5'8" tall and about 4 feet wide, and we'd call him Sledge because when he'd skate and he'd bail, he'd hit the ramp and the whole ramp would shake like
Yeah,
someone took a sledgehammer to it.
yeah, how funny.
So he brought, and I still have it in my parents' house somewhere. Brought me back a flyer. So this would have been like 1984 or 5, and he brought me back some fold-out flyer from a graffiti show in New York.
Okay.
And he's like, I don't know if you're familiar with graffiti art. I knew a little bit, right? I mean, I'd heard it, probably seen it in some context, but on MTV or some shit like that, right? But that was the first time I really sat and looked at it. And it was all these subway panels. And I just remember being like, oh, it's really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And so I started doodling like skate logos. I wish I had sent you photos, but it's probably shitty and looks stupid.
Nah, whatever.
But,
It's all good.
But I would take spray paint and I'd practice painting stuff on my ramp, but I wouldn't try to do graffiti, I would just like, I do like Thrasher. I did like the Thrasher die, like
Yeah, you did skater graffiti.
yeah, skater graffiti on my ramp. And it was just a way to practice.
Yeah,
Um, but it wasn't, I mean, obviously there really wasn't any graffiti going on in Japan.
sure. Oh yeah, around that
It-
time.
and it wasn't even in Hawaii. There was some basic graffiti in the ditches when we go skate.
Yeah.
But the same thing, skater graffiti.
So where were you
Um,
getting your references from at that point if you're in Japan? If you got the bug in Japan, or did it take you moving to another city from that point to see the stuff that was going on, and then that drew you in even closer to the movement?
Yeah, I mean, like I wasn't actively trying to do graffiti. Like I was just like,
Yeah.
man, I think anyone who does graffiti, part of it is, and it's the same as doodling, man. It's an impulse, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm an impulsive person. I might have ADD, who knows?
Sure.
But it also goes back to that whole not planning thing. I trust my instincts. I just try to, a lot of trial and error shit. Like I'm going to try this. If this doesn't work, I'm going to try that. I'm going to figure this out. And sometimes when you do something, you don't know where it's going to take you. And sometimes you do it and you drop it and you pick it up later when it makes sense, and on and on and on. Right. So
Yeah.
I wasn't actively pursuing graffiti. It wasn't anything that I was drawn to like a magnet. But it had a placeholder in the background. And so, when I went to Hawaii, most of what I was drawing was still that, at that time, was that very Pushead influenced, Mad Mark Rude. It was just, the dude who did all the old Misfit shit.
Yeah.
It was that style of art, right? Like I was looking at Rat Fink and,
Yep.
and a lot of the kind of beatnik shit.
I mean, I was doing the same thing. Yeah, I was drawing
Yeah.
record covers and all that stuff before graffiti.
Right, and looking at it's, I literally told my wife this story 2 days ago because we were talking about, somehow we got on the story of Robert Williams, and I'm like, I remember because I lived in Hawaii. The first time I ever saw Robert Williams painting was the first Guns N' Roses cover,
Yeah, right.
and
The rate machine
I
piece.
saw it. Yeah, man, I saw it and I was like, holy fuck, like who the fuck is this dude?
Yeah, I've never seen anything that wicked up until that point. I've seen some crazy ass
Yeah.
drawings, but that was like
Mhm.
capturing something that was sick, right?
Yeah, that dude was on such a different level. And again, in the same vein, right?
Yeah.
So of everything I had been into before, and again, whether it's hot rod culture and comic books, it's just, it's just pop counterculture shit, right?
Right.
So I immediately went to Tower Records because those still existed, and found a Robert Williams book and got super into it.
Right.
At that time too, like H.R. Geiger, that's another one, right?
Sure.
Where it's like that stuff. What was it? The Dead Kennedys, the Pull Out in Frankenchrist, right? Which is
Yeah.
the whole, what I'm talking about.
I do.
Anyways, it was where those things, again, they started crossing over, right? Where music and art crossed over, and I was finding about art through music, and that's it. I'd go to the record store and you'd pick up zines, and they'd have shit in them. And,
Right. So that was some of your earlier illustration kind of influences, and I'm sure some of the cartoon stuff when you were growing up, the Hanna-Barbera and all that.
Yeah.
The Impressionist though influences of, like, when were you exposed to that? Was that something that you kind of discovered in art school, or?
No, so, again, I had to go to a couple shows when I lived in Japan. Like our art teacher made us go see a Picasso show.
Oh, okay.
And that's literally how I felt about it at the time. I was like, this shit's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like it.
Yeah, sure.
Like, why is this guy famous? Like this.
Yeah, I
stuff
don't
looks
see it,
stupid.
right?
Yeah, I don't like it.
How
But
funny.
that's part of being young and
Sure.
So funny enough, when I went to VCU, and again, how I ended up at VCU in Richmond. So I graduated high school in Japan. I moved to Hawaii, but I didn't want to go to college yet, so I worked at Town and Country Surf Shop in Ward Warehouse.
Okay.
Um, for anyone who lives in Hawaii, you'll know where it's at. Um, and then I went to Leeward Community College and just took classes. And then my dad was getting stationed back in Norfolk, and I was like, I didn't know if I want to stay in Hawaii or go back to the mainland because, you do get a little bit of island fever out there.
I can see that.
And I felt disconnected, and I wanted to get back to, the DC area and stuff like that,
Right.
which had played a big part of my life before I left. Because I lived in Annapolis before he moved to Japan, and that's when I went to some of my first punk shows,
Yeah,
in
sure.
DC.
You're
Of
going to
course,
get
in
that
Lur-
back, right? That was going to be back in your life at that moment and you were stoked.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I didn't know where to go to school. One of the kids I went to high school with in Japan was going to VCU, which is Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond. I said, fine. I applied. I got in. Um, and I went there knowing nothing about Richmond, knowing nothing about that VCU was an art school at that point, largely. They had a large arts program. Obviously, Guar's from there. Anybody
Right,
who
right.
who loves music understands they're still one of the greatest,
Yeah.
most creative bands ever.
Really, I never saw
Um,
those guys live, man. I'm kicking myself. If I had a time machine, I would go back and go see
yeah,
Guar play because I
yeah,
messed
man.
up, man, by missing those guys.
Right, and so you gotta, like that for me was prime time, right? I moved. That was '88 is when I moved to Virginia.
Yeah.
Went to VCU, and probably wasn't a good idea to set me loose. Meaning, I live with my parents when I lived in Hawaii,
Yeah,
just
sure.
because it's Hawaii and it's expensive, and they had a nice house, and why bother?
Right.
So it was the first time I lived on my own, and I didn't make it to too many classes, but
You're
I
like,
made
I'm
it to every
free. Let's do this.
I made it
Uh,
to every show and every party, and
Good for you,
um,
man.
yeah. But that's where I started meeting kids in the art program through skateboarding,
Right.
who then introduced me, who were painting graffiti, and we'd go out tagging, and I started learning more about fine art.
Is that when you got the
And
name Dalek? Is that when the name Dalek came to you?
no, that came later. So
Okay.
we can take it slower. We can jump ahead to that. You tell me what you want to do, buddy.
No, I mean, just, yeah, please continue. I was thinking, oh, well, he's starting to write graffiti. Maybe he already had the name Dalek.
No, I think that I can't. I really can't even remember the first thing I wrote,
Yeah,
because it was really just tagging. That's probably where I started.
sure.
I used to just run around with a chisel tip, and paint markers and hit stop signs and that kind of shit, right?
Expressing yourself on the streets.
Yeah. Well, again, and again, it was that segue of understanding. Like it was the impulse, right? It
Yeah,
was.
right.
I like the motion. I don't know
Sure.
if anybody Dave, that paints graffiti, but I like the physical movement of it.
Of course, the
Like
flow and
like I
yeah,
yeah,
I
I
get
like
it.
how my body moves when I paint graffiti. So
Yeah, man, I compare my aesthetic when I'm painting to like a Tai Chi kind of movement. That's how I'm able to capture some of these large outlines, is that
yeah.
I just got it down like that after so many years of painting.
Yeah, so I think that was part of the appeal too, was just the motion of it, right? It was
Right.
it was very liberating. It was very wide open. Um, so, it started there, and then I moved to Chicago in '91. I graduated VCU, and one of my buddies who went to VCU had tried to get into the School of the Arts to Chicago, um, and he was like, it's a cool school. And I was like, God, I'd love to live in Chicago. And I'm like, I'm going to try to get in, but I didn't really make art at that point.
Yeah.
So I borrowed slides and I basically forged a, what would you call it? I've just put together a portfolio of things that weren't mine.
Uh-huh.
And
it's called It's called plagiarism.
Look, buddy, the ends justify the means every time.
Yeah. And so you got in, and yeah, man.
Look, I got in because I went up there and I bullshit my way through it, and I'm sure at the end of the day, if you can pay the bills, that's probably really all they care about.
It's amazing that you did that in retrospect to your entire career's work up to this point, because it's such a contrast to what I would think the moves you would have to make to kind of get into a art school and whatnot, because you've done so much, you're a celebrated artist around the world, like it's funny that you kind of like, faked it until you kind of made it type sort of scenario in a sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's the thing is I knew I wanted to do, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you want to do something, but you don't know how to do it, right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
I didn't have any skill sets. Like I knew the basics about some stuff, and I'm like, I got to learn more. I had no clue what I was going to do when I went to school in Chicago.
Right. Yeah.
But I just was like, fuck it, I'll go and I'll see what happens. And as in Chicago, the vast majority of graffiti is along the elevated train line. So
Right.
when I would take, and this is in the early '90s, so graffiti, Chicago graffiti was rolling.
Right.
And it was just mind blowing to me, man. That was the first time, because I didn't live in New York, so Chicago is the first big city I lived in, where I'm riding the subway and I'm just seeing productions just all the way down,
Right.
and throw ups. And
it was a real
like,
graffiti city. It was a real graffiti
It was.
movement happening right there in Chicago, and it still happens every day, obviously. But
yeah, well, and I was just instantly like, all right, this
that
is
was
right?
it.
So I
Yeah.
was photographing it. I got into that, and then I met some kids at school, and I really started painting in Chicago, and again, I was lucky enough to link up with good people, and that's just how it goes, man. I
Yeah.
definitely just try to roll with the flow of life, and it's taken me in a lot of great places because I've just allowed it to do that. So
You must have done something amazing in your past lives. I don't know what it is, but hopefully you'll share some of those secrets with us tonight.
It's an odd dynamic, man, because
Yeah.
I'm really free flowing like that, but
Sure.
yet I'm extremely uptight and controlling.
Yeah. Right.
So it's a really odd dynamic, but
Well, that's okay. I mean, it's your work, right? It's an extension of who
Yeah.
you are, and it's important to you that you have the right to be that way. If they want
Yeah.
you, that's what it is.
no
Kinda-
no doubt, man.
Kind of fast forwarding a little bit, maybe not too many years ahead, but your Cali years, your California years.
Yes, sir.
When did you end up in California? Was it like 95, 96?
Yeah, I moved to Northern California first.
Yeah. In San Francisco, or?
So, yeah, I had a friend. I wanted to get out of Chicago. When you grow up in a military family, man, you're just used to being uprooted so
On the
often.
move, right?
That when you've been somewhere for 3 or 4 years, you start to feel really unsettled.
Right.
And again, man, I trust my instincts. I knew it was time to go. And again, I love Chicago. Some of my best friends in the world still live there. I go back all the time.
Yeah.
But I had to get the fuck out. And I was talking to my buddy Lonnie, who I knew from Virginia, who had moved to San Francisco, and he's like, "Hey, man, just come out here." And I said, "All right."
And that's
And so I went out
that's
there.
it. Yeah.
I went out there, and I was crashing on a couch in his apartment. And again, if you live in San Francisco and you skate, you know that that's how skaters live in San Francisco.
Yeah,
Is
man. And you were
you live 8 deep, sleeping anywhere you can. You know.
totally getting it in where you can, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
Embarcadero and all those spots were popping around that time, right?
Oh yeah,
Did
man.
you
Well,
get a dose of
not
that
only
as well?
that, man. That was the height of you know of twist and all that stuff. Like when I
Yeah, I
got to San
remember.
Francisco,
Uh-huh.
man, graffiti in San Francisco is off the fucking chain.
Right.
I mean, that's I mean, I could go on and on and on, right? Because
Sure.
it's
You saw so
Oakland and San
much, right?
Francisco, and you know that's right around the time that even Revoke and Saber and all them moved there, and
Uh-huh.
you know, obviously what Gray and Amaze and
Right.
Twist were doing, and I mean, it
Mike
was
Giant
crazy,
was there,
man.
right? Our
Yeah,
buddy Mike Giant was
obviously,
there.
Mike. So yeah, I was gonna get to that story, man. You know, yeah, but Cycle was living there.
Right.
Obviously, you had all the TDK guys out in Oakland. So
That's right.
obviously, Dream and Poem and uh, again, man, just unbelievable how much cool graffiti there was. Even we'd go out to Coors Yard and shit, and you know, even Cause and those dudes would come out and paint out there, and
I remember I saw that piece with my own bare naked eyes.
yeah,
I
and then
remember we had driven up from San Diego on a road trip to go see Mike and do some painting in the city. It must have been 95, 96 around
yeah,
there. And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, same thing, man. Just like blown away with what was happening in the movement up that way. I'm surprised I never lived up in that city, but I always stayed in San Diego because I'd worked in the skateboard industry, and I probably just,
right.
I got lazy.
Well, you know, it was San Francisco, and then it was L.A. was just crushing it too, right? Like I'd go to L.A. and I have just fuck tons of photos of you know it's Tyke and Chunk and GK
Yeah,
and just on and on and on, like you know Motor Yard
so
and
good.
Belmont Tunnels and
Yeah,
I mean Venice, all of it. Like
yeah.
there was so much great graffiti happening in California in the mid '90s.
It, yeah.
It just fucking blew me away.
It's
So
it sounds like we were running, I mean, obviously parallel, but our paths never really connected. Like we must have been in the
yes,
same
dude.
lane at the same time going to these places because I painted Motor Yard, I painted Venice, I was up in
Mhm.
San Francisco, you know, so on and so forth. And you lived here in San Diego for
Yeah.
some time.
Well, that's the thing. So I only lived in San Francisco for like 2 months.
Oh, okay.
But in that time, I told you we were talking earlier. So one of the guys who slept on the floor in the place I was staying was this guy Bob, and Bob worked over at Think, and it just so happened that Mike Giant and Cycle were both doing graphics
I
at Think at
remember
that
those.
point.
Yeah,
And then you
right.
know the mighty Greg Carroll was running the show
Yes.
over there.
Yes, the
Um,
guru.
yeah, man. So that's how I met Mike and Chris.
Okay.
And then I'd hang out with those dudes. But then I was trying to find work, but I just couldn't find a job in San Francisco. And I had met Chris Markovich through friends of mine in Chicago.
Okay.
And Chris was like, "Look, man, fuck San Francisco." He's like, "Move down here and live with us."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right."
Was
So
he
I
doing
moved.
tea bags at the time? Was he?
Yeah, yeah, he was. He was doing
Uh-huh.
tea bags, and
Uh-huh.
I think he was still riding for Prime.
Right.
And it was cool, man. You know, obviously Chris is a great guy,
He is a
and
great guy. Great
he
artist, great guy,
totally,
great skater, great
yeah,
personality,
totally,
man. Yeah.
yeah, just a selfless dude, man. He took me in, and
Yeah.
our other good buddy. I don't know if you know Ricky Biedenball, but Ricky's a filmer.
Okay.
Um, Great dude. He still lives out there in Southern California, but
Yeah. Yeah.
they're both from Florida originally, right? So
Right.
Chris, we lived. It was me and Chris and Ricky and Chris's mom, who Chris's mom's cool as shit.
Yeah.
And again, I was looking for work, and I didn't know what to do, and so Chris introduced me to Jay, good old Jay Strickland.
Jay Strickland, our friend of the show and longtime buddy for decades, Jay Strickland.
Long
He's
time.
he's
One
like the
of my
man
favorite
behind the
people.
man. He's the man behind the man. Yeah, I think
He is.
he's very unassuming, you know what I mean, with how important of a role he's played in skateboarding and in
Yeah.
graffiti and all this stuff. He's really a connector, big time.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, so yeah, who expected? Like that's where I met Jay,
Yeah,
and then I don't know if Mike is still floating on here, but the mighty Mike Nelson,
yeah.
um,
Uh-huh.
who is the art director at Duff's.
Okay, okay,
You
right.
know,
Yeah,
and that's who introduced me to Shepard, and we'll get to that in a minute. But
yeah.
it's always a chain, man. Like it's just funny how shit goes. But anyways, Jay was like, "Look, man, I'm leaving Duff's. I'm going to work at Birdhouse."
Uh-huh.
He's like, if you want my job, I'll put in a good word. And Chris was like, I got your back, and he talked to some of the other riders,
There
and
you go.
so
You got
I got
vetted
the
in.
job.
You got vetted
I
by
did.
Chris Markovich.
I did. So I got the
Yeah,
team manager job at Duff's,
killer.
and was fortunate enough to do that for about 2.5 years, and
Right.
do a lot of traveling with those guys, and do a lot of painting. So that
S
was really when I probably did the vast majority of my painting, and when I started painting canvases, and
Right. Right. Because
Nelson was like asking me to do characters to put in ads. Like I just got a lot of people that were really being cool and kind of getting
yeah,
my back, and
yeah.
that's when I met Rich Jacobs, who put me on to a lot of shit, and again, that dude connected me with Marcia at New Image Art. Um, Nelson connected me with Shepard, and Shepard became a huge supporter, and just taught me a bunch of shit. And
Right. Because he was living here
um,
in San Diego at the time as well.
yeah, he was still living in San Diego, and
Uh-huh.
but again, the most selfless, humble person. And I'd go and just sit down with him at Black Market until all hours of the night.
Right.
Back then he still cut rubies, right? So we'd sit and
Yeah.
I'd help him cut rubies for his prints, and he taught me how to work. Like I didn't know how to use a computer. He showed me how to use
That's
Illustrator.
awesome.
Um, he helped me make stickers. So, man, again, it was all these people who kept believing in me, and pushing me along, and going, "Hey, man, I dig what you're doing. Just keep pushing it, keep trying it."
And
Um,
that's how you get one door open by someone, and the doors just keep swinging open. It's similar to my
yeah,
experience in skateboarding, but I ended up staying in skateboarding for 25 years, which is entirely way too long. If I
it
wanted to
is.
pursue a personal art career, like it was something that I should have probably taken a jump or a leap out of a lot earlier. But whatever, it is what it is, and here we are. But
Well, look,
yeah,
man, everybody's path is their path, right? But I mean,
exactly.
it's we skipped over a big chunk between Chicago and California as far as of influences. But
Sure.
just to circle back really quick, because the Space Monkey got generated before I went to California.
Okay.
It was in its early phases when I was living in Chicago,
Yeah.
and one of the kids I went to school with in Chicago is from DC, and so we'd go back to DC on the holidays and go paint like L'Enfant, the tunnels at L'Enfant Plaza, a lot of spaces around there, but um, Exacto and Horizon, that whole NAA crew out of Maryland, DC area. Um, those dudes became formidable in teaching me graffiti skills, right?
Oh,
Like when
good.
I just
Right.
basic can control. Hey, try this, do that. Here's
Techniques.
how you do this.
Uh-huh.
Um, then I told you I was taking photos of graffiti, and I'm like, I got to go to New York. Um, Somehow I had oh, you know what? I got it from, I don't know where the fuck I got it. I got a copy of Undercover magazine from somebody,
Okay.
and I wrote TD, right? So TD ran
Uh-huh.
Undercover,
I remember I met
and
him. Yeah.
it TD's the man.
Yeah.
Good old Ed. But anyways, I wrote him, and he literally wrote me back and was like, "Hey, call me," because I wrote him and I said, "Hey, I want to come to New York. I never really been." I called him. He's like, "Yeah, man, when do you want to come to New York?" I was like, "I'll come tomorrow." I was
Okay.
like, "Fuck it, man. I'll roll out." So I rolled out to New York, and because it's a good story, so I met those dudes. I met him and Cause at the Exxon station right before the Holland Tunnel, right?
Oh, cool. Yeah, I know exactly where you're talking about.
Right. And so TD had this little 240 SX. It's like a little two-person car, and you know how big I am. So I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't fit in this fucking thing.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Look, man, why don't you drive, and we'll go all over."
Right.
Now you got to remember, I don't know these dudes from anybody. I never met them. I barely talked to them.
Typical graffiti kind of encounter, right?
Man, look, they took me all over. We went
Yeah.
everywhere, man. We went all over Manhattan. We went to Harlem. We went to the Bronx.
Killer.
We went everywhere. Saw every Hall of Fame, every huge production.
Jeez, man. I can only imagine what you were looking at with your own eyes in New York around that
Wow, and
time.
I was just taking fuck tons of pictures, man. I was going through so many rolls of film, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So, anyways, the last place we went to was the Freight Yard in Queens. And so we parked on the road. And we went down into the yard, and again, as you can imagine, like when every other car is a Zephyr and a Smith, and
Yeah.
you know,
Sure.
it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I must have shot like 30 rolls of film that day of some. I still have it, you know, obviously all the photos. But so we come back, and Brian's like, "Hey, man, where's your car?"
Oh, no.
And I thought he was joking. And I was like, "It's funny, man. Like, I get it." And
Yeah.
so anyways, the car got stolen.
No way.
So
What do you do in
I
that
was-
situation? Did you call the cops, or
yeah,
obviously
I
you filed a
called-
report?
Yeah, that's you just do. You know, man, I had
Go
had,
through
like,
the
my
motions.
house. Yeah, you call your insurance company, you call the cops, you file a report,
Right.
and then TD was like, "Why don't you just hang out in New York for a week or so?"
Ah,
And I was like, "All right, I got nowhere to be." So I
sure.
hung out, and we went. I think the first night I was there, we went to Limelight because Leeway was playing.
Okay.
And if anybody likes Leeway, I love Leeway, but it's some good New York hardcore.
Okay.
Anyways, a friend of mine who I went to school with in Virginia just happened to be bartending there. And so that started off a whole other chain of events. Anyways, I ended up going and hanging with TD in New York a lot and hanging out with these girls I knew from Richmond. We started painting. Dados and Virus
Uh-huh.
were coming from Vancouver. And I had met those dudes when I was up in San Francisco. I drove from San Francisco to Vancouver to go paint freights with them once.
Right.
And so we went up to Connecticut, and that's where the first Space Monkey got painted. And those dudes were like, "Look, I think you got something here. Like, I like this element. Like, this is working."
That's pretty cool because first off, what is a Space Monkey and where did it come from? Was it just something naturally that you were maybe influenced by the throw-ups of like a certain writer or an artist or a style, and then it was like just a mismatch and an evolution, or was it just original Space Monkey? Because I've seen it evolve
Yeah.
through the years,
Well, one thing, man, I quickly realized, like, I didn't want to regurgitate anything anyone else was doing in graffiti, right? Like,
Right.
it was really important to me to, if I was going to do it, to just do something original, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck Mike just texted me. Nelson, I'm in the middle of an interview. Buddy.
No, really? He's all, yeah, I know, I'm watching you. Hey, buddy, I see you. What up, Nelson? Stop interrupting, man. Come on. I love that guy.
I don't have my readers on. I got sunglasses. So I can't read that shit.
That's funny. Classic.
Anyways, so that's where the evolution started. But the whole
Yeah,
point of it was the only reason it kept moving forward was that support, right? It was every
sure.
person going, "Hey, man, keep trying, keep working at it, keep
Right.
you know evolving it."
And that's huge.
Nobody. It is huge, and that's what I try to tell people
Yeah,
who always ask for advice. Like, I'm a young artist, I'm a this, I'm a that.
right,
I'm like, look, man, I
right.
said life's a long journey, and you just have to hear things as you go.
Sure.
Like,
That's
you
great
can't get
advice.
caught up in something having to happen, man. Like,
Serious.
I still feel like I'm nowhere near, and I still listen every day, man. I still try to evolve what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Um, but that's just life, right? Like, I try to be a better dad, a better husband, a better this, a better that,
that's
whatever.
right.
It's just simply being open to the ideas of just embracing it and going like, all right, man, I'm gonna try this. It's like working with Nick. Like, you just, all right, we'll see what happens. We'll see where it goes. I don't need it to turn into anything. I don't need it to be anything. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna do it because it's fun and it's different, and I don't want to do the same stale shit over and over again.
It doesn't feel like
Um,
you're forcing it, it just natural, it comes
yeah, man.
natural at that point.
Well, and that's how the evolution of the style comes, man. Is I
Yeah.
get bored fast, and I got to keep trying to tweak things,
Yeah.
just
Right.
just to keep myself interested, man. Because uh, I just have to keep interested. I
Uh,
got to
uh,
stay engaged at all times.
Totally. And I'm sure we'll talk about some of those, the evolution and then where your work has headed through the years as well as it, because you had stepped completely away from the Space Monkey maybe 10 or 15 years ago after kind of building it to this
Yeah,
very iconic character, in our industry. So,
right.
so, uh, so should we go back to Cali or should we?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, buddy, wherever you want to go, let's travel, man.
So
You
we were
can't
in
travel
Cali.
for
You
me
worked,
though.
yeah, you worked in skateboarding, and
Uh huh.
met some more people out that way. But then
Right.
you ended up leaving California back to New York to live after California.
No, so after
Where'd you go?
California, man, I went on a sojourn.
Oh, okay.
It was basically, I just burned out.
Yeah.
Like, the Duff's job was super fun, and I mean, look, I traveled the world, and I met a ton of amazing people and had great experiences. And then it just became a weight, and it started to become annoying, and just boring. It got boring, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I up and left, and I didn't really know what I was going to do, so I just kind of left. And where'd I go? I think I went to Cincinnati because my good buddy Jason, who God rest his soul, passed away a few years ago.
Uh-huh.
Um, man, he's one of my closest friends, and I knew I could just hang out with him and paint walls. That's all that dude does is paint walls and tattoo. Um, so that's what I did. I went and I just started. I just go out and paint a different wall every day and kind of think about what I wanted to do, and
Oh, that's cool.
that ran its course. And um, I went back to Richmond because some of my good friends out there were like, "Look, come here and we'll take care of you." So those are the same girls that were up in New York at Limelight. They had moved back to Richmond, um, and so I moved in with them and went to work uh, for one of their names are Sumi and Opie, right? So
Yeah.
Opie's boyfriend Johnny played in this band called Alabama Thunder Pussy. Um, but his dad was a construction worker, framed houses. And
Okay.
Johnny had to go on tour. So I was like, well, I'm just going to chill here. And so that's what I did. I framed houses for 6 months
Oh,
and
wow.
just kind of painted on the side. And funny enough, and I don't know where I met Maya Hayek. Like, Maya Hayek reached out and invited me to do a group show in San Francisco,
Uh-huh.
and that was in early 2000. And that kind of got me back into doing some shows, and um, got me back into doing art.
Yeah.
So I left Richmond, and went to New York.
Yeah, thank you, Maya
And
Hayek.
yeah, I mean, right. Again, this is the beauty, right? So, and then of course that story you told, I went to the Boston Museum,
Yeah,
just took the train up there one day, saw that show, and I went to high school in Japan, so obviously that type of art was appealing to me.
were,
I was into
were,
cartooning,
yeah, were
comic
you
art.
familiar with Murakami at that point?
Not really. I think that I don't even know how I found out about him. Maybe Brian told me about him.
Yeah,
Um, Obviously, Cause was it's the same thing. Like that super flat. Like he's the one who turned me on to cell animation paint,
right,
um, which they don't make anymore, which is a bummer. But I
right.
finally found a company that makes paint I like, and I'm happy again because I've just been annoyed having to fucking find a paint to replace that old Chromacolor stuff.
Yeah, Chromacolor was
Um,
amazing. What paints
God,
are you using right now? Can you divulge that, or is it?
yeah, I can. It's this company out of Detroit called
Uh,
Alpha Six.
yeah, that I've actually have some of their paint. It's really
Yeah,
good
they
stuff.
are. I guess they made oil enamels, like lettering
Right,
enamels and
right.
sign enamels, but they got into acrylics, and they sent me a couple bottles,
Yeah,
and I was like, please, please, please.
yeah,
Um, and it's been a home run, and they're great guys, and the paint kills it.
right,
Super flat, super opaque, mixes really well.
right.
Um, and it's made in America, so it's a win-win for everybody, right?
That's pretty cool
Um,
too.
Anytime you can buy America, it's a good call.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that. Um, yeah, same sort of experience with that paint. And I was actually about to go online this evening and get some more of it.
Yeah,
So
please
yeah,
do.
good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. No, so anyways, learning to paint that super flat style. Again, I was still teaching myself how to draw and paint. I
Yeah,
was still very new to it. Moving to New York helped. And of course, moving to New York allowed me to meet tons of people who all introduced me to other people who
yeah,
introduced me to more people.
yeah.
Um, and the Murakami thing was really happenstantial. Like I saw the show, and then I'm like, I gotta learn from somebody. Like I do believe in apprenticeships. I think they're important.
Sure,
Um, which again is it's funny. It's a very Japanese thing, right? Like they're very into apprenticeships over there.
right.
But
Makes sense.
um, so, anyways, I was like, "Fuck it, man! I'll move back to Japan. I'm not worried about it." So I wrote the studio, thinking, "Yeah, I'll just go live in Japan again." And they said, "Oh, we got a studio
Right.
in Maspeth." And I said, "Where's that?" And they said, "It's right down the street from you, dummy." So,
Yeah, right.
so
And
I
so,
went. I went there and really learned about studio practice because again, I had no clue how to be an artist, right? I was
right.
just making shit, but I knew there was a part of me that had to learn some more, and so that's what happened there. I learned some shit,
That's
and
amazing. I think a lot of
yeah,
us have never, had that sort of experience. We just kind of dive into it and just like you said, we make some shit and, you know, try to tell a story
yeah,
maybe here and there. Some of us don't. I don't know, but uh,
yeah. Look, man, I'm sure part of it is luck, right? Like, I mean, you got to put yourself out into the world. I know a lot of people are afraid to do that. I know when people write me, I always take time to write people back or deal with them because I think it takes courage when for people to put themselves out
yeah, yeah,
and ask questions. And um, it was important for me, man. Like I would go to music shows and hyper focus on how a guitar player's fingers would move,
sure,
or
sure.
watch the drummer, or it's just man, when you want to learn shit and then that's what you do. And so I just try to keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. And you soak something up and you move on to the next thing.
Right.
So right now all I'm doing is looking at old illustrative work because I don't know why even. Low battery. Look at that. You drained my battery, motherfucker.
Plug me. Come on, man. Plug it in. You don't
Plug it in.
want plug it in. Don't go anywhere. Come on.
We'll be good.
Yeah,
We
we're
ain't going to
good.
be running that much longer.
Yeah.
Anyways, look,
Actually,
so
go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I'm just saying that that's all, man. It's a long, crazy journey, right?
Yeah.
And I'm in phase 300 right now,
It's.
just doing some more shit, raising kids, and
I love it.
they'll be grown ups in a couple more years, and then it'll be time for the next phase.
Exactly. Now, working out of, with Murakami and, in New York and growing into this professional artist, what were you doing about protecting your IPs? Like, did you learn anything like from some of these guys on how to protect yourself, or did you learn the hard way, or was it
No,
something
I
you
mean,
picked up, or you just kind
yeah,
of
it's
roll
stuff.
with it?
Yeah. Well, look, I roll with it, but this stuff produces itself, right? Like I learned how to read contracts on my own.
Right.
Yeah, Murakami was super helpful.
Yeah.
Um, and again, some of it's just common sense, right? You just kind of go through and you handle your shit.
Right.
And again, you can also use physical intimidation when need be.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, when you're 6'6" and 225 or 30 pounds, yeah, that physical intimidation comes in handy, man. Everybody needs a Dalek with them.
yeah, buddy. Look, man, first of all, I'm super cool with people, but
Yeah,
when you want to be a dick, then I'm gonna be a dick, right? I mean, it's
yeah.
just you're gonna get whatever you give, and
That's the nature
so
of the beast.
yeah, man, and most people are cool. Like 99% of people are cool. I very rarely run into dicks or assholes,
Yeah,
and when I do, they're easy to put down and move away from. And
yeah,
but it's about making choices and drawing boundaries, and I choose how I'm gonna live my life, man. I don't get caught up in shit. I got better things to do.
yeah. That's cool that you've discovered
You
that.
know.
Yeah.
Well,
Trusting your brain, right? That's something that I've heard
hmm
you say. Uh,
yeah, man.
what do you mean by trusting your brain? What does that
Well, look,
mean
man.
to the listener?
Here's the thing, right? Well, yeah. So, and you guys all know. Look, the key is if I trust my instincts, right? If I trust my gut feelings, and I know who I am, then I'm going to draw the life out that I should be drawing for myself, right? I'm not going to build a fake life built on some shit I got to continue to reinforce with constructs. Like
Uh-huh.
whatever I achieve, don't achieve, find, don't find, do, don't do, say, don't say. It's all just natural, right? So whatever path I've found in life, it's the old Bruce Lee, right? Be like the water, man. You just gotta fucking adapt. You gotta flow, and you can't. I don't try to be anything I'm not. I don't mask anything. It's part of why my wife and I have an amazing relationship because she can put up with me, and
Yeah,
you know, but she gets it. She knows who I am underneath, and she accepts me for who I am, and I accept her. But there's no weirdness. It's not like, well, you shouldn't say that or don't do this or why'd you go do that?
right.
Like I just do what feels right to me because I'm trying to just be a happy whole person
Yeah,
and I don't want to compromise. So if I stop painting space monkeys, it's just because I felt like I had nothing left to give to them because I didn't have the skill set
sure.
and it was time to explore something else. And if I had just kept doing space monkeys because they were popular, then I'd be fake and I'd be bored
Yeah.
and
I mean, that's
I'd
something I
hate.
battle with as well, and I found myself, going in
Yeah,
different directions. I could relate to that big time.
yeah. I think it's important, man, because the foundation you build underneath yourself has to be stable, right? So
Yeah.
if I build a fake life on a bunch of rickety ladders and it all comes crashing down,
Ah,
then it's bullshit. But I also
exactly.
got to show my sons how to be proper men. and you can't be a proper man when you go around fucking acting like an asshole or pretending you're something you're not,
Yeah.
or fucking compromising your beliefs. And
Yes.
so I
Cool.
figure if I always present who I am honestly, then there's nothing for me to ever worry about, man. Like I trust who I am. I trust how I live, and I just get up every day and do my thing, man.
That's what's up, man. And I think all those things that you mentioned really have a lot to do with the foundation of being able to evolve and stay relevant in a sense. You know, like if you want to continue to be an artist, like I think that's the hardest thing is like, okay, you're relevant for 5 years. Can you make it to 10, like 15? We live a long life, you know, like how long can you stay in that lane of relevancy? You know, like it's a very difficult feat to do.
Well, and again, I don't know what relevant. The funny thing is, being relevant is relevant, right?
Yeah.
It's they're all made up constructs. It's like,
Yeah.
who gives a fuck?
Sure.
It's you're relevant to whoever's drawn to you, right? Like I find that
Exactly.
I still, I mean, I'm still great friends with Mike Nelson. I'm great friends with you, with Andy
Yeah.
Howe, with fucking any
Yeah.
number of people,
All our boys.
because they're all genuine, honest people, and we've always stayed on the same vibe. Like, no one forces anything, no one tries to be anything different. Um, and so we're just naturally drawn to each other. I'm naturally drawn to some people, and other people naturally put me off, right?
Sure.
And I'm sure, but I don't I don't try to pretend to be something to close a deal. You know, if I get on a job and things aren't working, man, I'll start throwing shit and cursing.
Yeah.
And if they're like, "Oh, that's out of line," I'm like, "Well, fuck you then. I'm out of here."
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't I don't look, man, I'm an emotional person, but I get things out of my system and I move on. I don't harbor grudges. I don't hold things in. Um, I believe in just get it out and keep moving, and that's healthy.
Now, if
That's the healthy way to deal with life, man.
yeah, very good. Very, I mean, those are great words of experience and wisdom, man, because a lot of us don't know how to do that. We don't know how to let things roll off of us. Sometimes we, you know, absorb it and we have a hard time and it becomes toxic and poison, right? It
Yeah,
starts
man,
affecting everything all around us, all of our
it does.
relationships and yeah, all that. So that's really cool, man. I can appreciate the honesty and you know, not taking people's shit when you don't have to. It's awesome.
No, buddy. Well, again,
Yeah.
man, and look, and it's about good partners, right? Like I do feel like I'm at that stage of life, right? Like not just partners, like my wife. I love my wife to death. She's fucking amazing. You
Yeah.
met her,
Yeah.
um, you know, but like I started working with Travis at UVD Toys. Like that's just a great symbiotic, super easy relationship, which is why the toy came out so great, right?
Exactly. I was about to say, like that, those
You
toys
know,
came out amazing. It was really cool to see
yeah.
after all these years.
But it's just like what I said with Nick. It's a product of the relationship. It's like a lot of that toy was him going, "Hey, I don't know if you're open to hearing it, but I think this pose might be better." And I'd be like, "Oh, fuck yeah, let's do that."
Right.
Not,
Right.
it's my art, bro. You know.
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
but then, the printmaker I work with, Aaron out of Cincinnati. All these people live in Ohio. Don't ask me why, but you know, when you have good natural relationships, it helps me. I'm like, I don't know shit about screen printing because I have a great relationship with my printer, I've
Right.
been able to evolve myself as a printmaker so I can make better prints.
Yep.
But I couldn't do that without having a great printer to help me out. So again, I listen to my printer. Hey, here's what I can do. Oh, here's what I think would look solid. Oh, you should try this. And but again, life's about partnerships. We know that
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
can't do anything on your own. And when you are natural and at ease, you'll draw good people into your life, or people that suit you, right? Everybody's different.
I
So
feel like I'm finally kind of getting there. It's taken so long, but
it just comes with age, bud.
yeah, man, I think that's what it is. The age and
You know,
experience, having
it
gone
is,
through it a
man.
few times.
Well, look, buddy, you got to make mistakes, right? I mean, that's life. If you
Oh
don't
yeah,
fuck up, you're never going to learn.
yeah.
And
What's
I'm sure
living?
I'm sure you tell your kids that, like,
Yeah,
man, you got to figure it out. Like, but it's the only way is trial and error, man. You just got to get out there and live
that's right.
and see where things take you, and just surround yourself with good people, and don't give up. A lot of people
Man,
give up, man. They shouldn't.
100%, 100%. I think we're coming up to about 2 hours here.
Holy shit! It's past my
Man,
bedtime.
yo, Dalek, James, I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you so much for
Please,
coming
bud.
on the show. This was killer. I had so much fun hanging out with you, talking to you about this stuff. I'm looking forward to when we can get together again in person, just
I
toast the
know.
town or whatever, like
Yeah,
kick
I'll get
back.
out there, man. I mean, again, California's second, third home,
Sure,
So I'll get out there and see everybody.
sure.
I'm salty that Mike didn't poke his head in, so
I'll let
I'm
him
gonna
know.
have to.
I'll let him know.
Yeah,
Yeah, he'll reach out to you, I'm sure.
yeah, and tell
He loves
Bobby. You
you.
see Bobby as much as Mike does. I know he does. I love that dude too. You see Bobby?
Not as much as Mike does. We've been staying home a lot, but I do stay in touch with Bob, and we're planning to get together here pretty soon. I was just in St. Louis on a job, and I came home, and I've just been kind of kicking back a little bit from that experience. It took a lot out of me, and all this
Well,
COVID shit. So
yeah, buddy,
you
it's
know,
hard, man. Look,
yeah,
the good news is it'll wrap up, and
it will.
let's all give ourselves a round of applause for getting through this, and
And prayers to the
and doing what
prayers.
we got to do, man.
That's prayers to all the families affected by it and had to go through the hardships of losing people, and hang in there. Prayers are with you. There's more awesome days to come, and let's get it.
All right, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
buddy.
get past this bullshit. James, until the future, my man. Thank you so
All right,
much.
brother. Yes, sir.
I
Thank
will
you.
I will see you. I will see you later.
All
Thank
right,
you,
brother.
Dalek.
Dalek, peace, bro.
Peace out.
All right.
Bye. I'll turn this off.
I think that's it. Just like
Just
that.
leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your voice is still there. You just have to. You just have to hang up the phone or disconnect. Yeah.
We're good.
All right, we're good, folks. Thank you to the chat for hanging in there. I know I didn't, interact with you as much as I like to. I wanted to give the floor to my friend Dalek, and it was awesome to have him on here and share his story and his insight and wisdom with us. The guy's a master of the arts, and thank you so much, Nicole at Verve Projects, to connect that. Thank you to Studio 111 for giving us a place to stream and to live this dream. Thank you to Nick Porford at Prisma Guitars for coming through and showing us his beautiful craft and his guitars. Show him some love on his Instagram. Order a guitar when you're ready. And I guess that's it. I'm Persway, and this show is a wrap. We're going to raid, right, Wally?
Yeah, we're gonna raid DJ Lonnie Love.
Lonnie Love. I love Lonnie Love.
Everyone loves Lonnie.
Yo, show some love to Lonnie Love. Get your raid and Bunny Kitty emotes up in the chat. Tell her that Persway sent you. Tell her Studio 111 sent you. And we'll see you in a few days with something else. We always got things up our sleeves. We got a lot of rad stuff in the work. Peace out. We love you. Into the future. Peace.
Thank you, everybody.
Shout out to the friend Wally B. Leaf Burgers in the chat. Ali.B, hey, welcome back.
I'm a sucker for cornrows and manicured toes. Fendi Capri pants and parasuit clothes. I rise to Diddy and City with 1 or 2 goals. I'm driving them out of high school straight into the pro. Who knows? I know. And I love it when you're making these.
Thank you for the resub.
Appreciate you, Wally.
Happy 7 months.